Olaso. So we'll go quite quickly into the next meditation. And it is, this particular method we'll explore is a response to the question or the issue of getting a good night's sleep. I often think that there are 4 types of nourishment that we need on a regular basis, without which we'll not really flourish, will not do well. Food and drink, obviously, getting the appropriate amount, kind of food and drink. Breathing. Many people have very unhealthy breathing habits, and that can be very stressful, very draining. And so learning how to breathe, which means learning how to back off and let the body breathe naturally, is a very important skill. When we're very tense, when we're very uptight, drawn, emotionally distraught, that tends to really disrupt the flow of breathing. It can be very unhealthy. And the 4th type of nourishment, of course, is getting a good night's sleep. So I know that some people, when first venturing into lucid dreaming, they're giving so much effort to it that it breaks up their sleep patterns. They don't get enough sleep. And then some people wonder, if I have lucid dreams, will I get enough sleep? Will I get rested enough if I'm awake in my dreams? The answer is, yeah, you really can get enough sleep. But learning how to fall asleep. A former student of mine, when I was a lecturer many, many years ago, he's now taken over his father's mattress company. He's a middle-aged man now. And he told me, I'm trying to remember the figures, it's in America, I think he said every year Americans spend $14 billion on mattresses and $45 billion on sleep medication. So it sounds like a good racket, because the sleep medications, of course, do not cure insomnia. You need to take them every single night. And so it's really a very good deal for the pharmaceutical industry. But it's not really that good for your brain. And so, as a substitute for drugs, and just generally speaking, I'd rather meditate than take any drug on the planet. The method we're about to explore is a variation on the theme of mindfulness of breathing, but one that is especially conducive to, oriented towards, inducing a deep sense of relaxation. So, brief introduction to shamatha, for those of you who have not heard it from me before. As we develop our attention skills through any number of methods of practicing shamatha, there's a sequence of skills or qualities of attention to be cultivated, which is very important to know about and to practice in sequence and not mix up the sequence. It can save you a lot of time. So in training in shamatha, and frankly in any type of meditation, the first thing, as we've done in settling body, speech, and mind, is learning how to relax. And learning how to relax more deeply and more deeply and more deeply is really crucial. Because the second phase is learning how to really maintain continuity of attention. Call it stability, coherence, sustained voluntary attention. And so that's really concentrating and maintaining a concentrated focus. But if you're not relaxed, if there's not a sense of ease in body and mind, that will be draining, and you'll exhaust yourself, you'll get stressed out just by paying really close attention for a long time. So relaxation, then stability, and then finally clarity. So in the method we're about to begin, and now momentarily begin, I'd like to emphasize the cultivation of a balance. Shamatha is always cultivation of balance. And so the balance here, we'll be cultivating from breath to breath a deeper and deeper sense of ease, of letting go, of relaxation, without losing clarity. Because normally when we lie down and we relax, the more relaxed we become, the more drowsy we become, until we simply pass out and fall asleep. Nothing wrong with that if what you really wanted was a nap. But if you like to develop your attention skills, then you need to do something other than take a nap. And that is developing a deeper sense of relaxation. But it's not really ambitious. It's a very modest balance or aspiration in this first phase. And that is relax more and more deeply, but the level of clarity of awareness, the wakefulness you have right now, just sustain that and don't lose that. And I would encourage you to learn how to do that in the supine position. Because I've been teaching it a long time, decades now, teaching people how to meditate in the supine. And still I hear people saying, oh, well, I just can't do it. Whenever I go in the supine position, I just get drowsy. And I would say, well, until now you've just gotten drowsy, why not break that habit? Because there's nothing in the posture itself that tells us we have to be drowsy. And so if you want to meditate, I would encourage you to go formally into the Shavasana. It's not just lying down. And use that posture only for yoga and meditation. And then simply develop a new habit. And so develop the habit of, in that shavasana, that corpse position, relax more and more deeply. And then if you need to, keep the sessions very, very short, so that if you see drowsiness coming in, then refresh. Keep on refreshing it. It can be very, very useful. Very, very useful. So let's practice this. This traces back to Asanga. This is a very old method of mindfulness of breathing. Asanga, 1,500 years ago, one of the great scholar contemplatives of Mahayana Indian Buddhism. And by the way, the settling the body, speech, and mind practice, this traces back to Padmasambhava. That's my source. You can find it in Natural Liberation. So let's take this first approach. It's very soothing, very calming, very good for inducing a sense of relaxation. And if you can bring that about without losing clarity, you've begun a great endeavor. Again, let the sound of the chime induce, by habit, a sense of relaxation as you allow your awareness to descend right down to the ground. So we will begin by settling body, speech, and mind in the natural state, now with fewer words. Rest your awareness in a witnessing mode. Mindfully aware of the sensations of the contact of your body with the cushion, the floor, the chair. Like a fragrance filling a room, let your awareness fill the whole space of the body. Without visualizing or thinking about the body, rest in this mode of bare attention. Simply perceiving the sensations without conceptually designating them or labeling them as body, as this or that. Settle your body with these three qualities of relaxation, stillness, and vigilance. And in order to still the voice of the mind, settle your respiration in its natural rhythm. Relaxing deeply with every out-breath, loosening the muscles with every exhalation, releasing the breath and releasing any thoughts that may come to mind. And simply allow the next breath to flow in. It's difficult to attend closely to something that we can influence and not deliberately influence it. But develop that skill. To breathe egolessly, releasing all control. Whether the in-breath is long or short, deep or shallow, just let it be. Sometimes the flow of the respiration will be irregular. Long in, short out, vice versa. Just let it be. Let the body sort itself out. Restore its equilibrium by way of the respiration. And then the mind, up close and personal. With an active will, set your mind at ease by releasing all concerns about anything outside the present moment. And let your awareness come to rest, right where it is, without going outwards or inwards, focusing on this or that. Let your awareness rest right where it is. Unmoved by appearances, releasing all identification with the subjective impulses of the mind, of thinking, remembering, desiring. Let your awareness come to rest in stillness and its own natural clarity, wakefulness. In this way, settle your awareness so that it's relaxed, still, and clear. And now shine the light of your awareness. Focus your attention on the entire somatic field. This whole field of experience, cinema number 1, if you like, in which all manner of tactile sensations arise. Sensations of firmness, of moisture, heat and cold. Sensations of motion, vibration, tingling, all kinds of motion. Earth, water, fire, and air. Let your awareness clearly illuminate these sensations arising from moment to moment throughout the whole body. And then as we venture into the main practice, as taught by Asanga, a great Indian master, selectively focus your attention on just those sensations throughout the whole body that are clearly correlated with the rhythm of your respiration. Observe your whole body breathe, the sensations of the respiration. You may feel even in the limbs, throughout the torso. The air only goes down to the lungs, but the sensations of the body breathing may be detected throughout this whole field. Again, without visualizing the body, without thinking about the body, with bare attention, simply observe these fluctuations of energy, you can call it, throughout the body that indicate the in-breath is occurring, the out-breath. Maintain this flow of cognizance as you attend to the rhythm. When the in-breath is long, note that it is long. When the out-breath is long, note that it is long. On occasion, the in-breath may be short. Note that it is relatively short. When the out-breath is short, note that it is short. Bearing in mind the theme of relaxing more and more deeply as the minutes go by. But without losing clarity, without dozing off or spacing out. With this in mind, with every exhalation, see if you can relax even a bit more physically, surrendering your muscles to gravity. With every out-breath, release. And with every in-breath, gently arouse and focus your attention on these fluctuations throughout the body. Thereby restoring clarity, really paying attention as you breathe in, but then relaxing with every out-breath. This practice may not be interesting. There's very little novelty. It may not engage your intelligence, but it may be very soothing, very calming. Allow you to experience a deeper sense of peace of mind, an inner calm. So see if you can be satisfied with that, without arousal, but calming and calming, but maintaining clarity. Let's continue practicing in silence. So that method right there is a method for actually achieving shamatha, which very simply put means developing relaxation, stability, and vividness to an extremely high level, such that when you come towards the actual achievement of shamatha, your physical senses completely withdraw, and the mind goes completely silent, and your substrate consciousness, which is by nature luminous, becomes completely unveiled. And so you enter into the samadhi where your awareness is entirely brought into the mental domain, and you can remain in really single-pointed samadhi for at least 4 hours. And while resting there in this kind of completely unveiled substrate consciousness, you experience an ongoing flow of bliss, luminosity, and non-conceptuality, which is very nice in and of itself, but also extremely useful for applying to other activities, including dream yoga. And Tsongkhapa, the great 14th, 15th century master, comments that if you achieve shamatha, then the power of your samadhi, this just radiant, brilliant, highly focused attention, will just naturally slip over into your sleep state. So it'll be very easy then, if you achieve shamatha, then very easy to be lucid in your dreams, but also radiantly vivid in your dreams, extremely high definition. So it's one of the many perks of developing attention skills to a high level. So we've covered briefly the type of practices, exercises in this secular practice of lucid dreaming during the daytime. Pretty well covered it. There's always more detail. Go to the sources. Stephen LaBerge has 3 books out. I highlighted what I think is the best of them, Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming. And then, of course, there's the nighttime practice. But I'll relate this to this practice we just did. And that is, this is a practice for achieving shamatha, which means you're developing stability and clarity in addition to developing a greater sense of ease. But if you'd like to practice this as a method for getting a good night's sleep, then I would suggest practice it in the supine position. Go formally into the shavasana when you've finished everything for the day, day's finished, and you're ready for bed, soon ready to go to sleep. But it can happen, probably you've experienced it, where you're really sleepy, but the mind is not turning off. It keeps on churning, thoughts, memories, and so forth, maybe something about tomorrow and all of that. And so to gently subdue, to release the energy behind that conceptual turbulence, so the mind can really rest and it needs a good night's sleep, then what I would suggest, if you'd like to do this to help you get a good night's sleep on a regular basis, and I've been doing this now for decades, because I have a kind of an energetic mind, is go into the shavasana and practice in that formal meditative posture, and so practice shamatha. But practice shamatha with a little bit of an edge to it, an orientation to relax more and more deeply, just releasing the body, relaxing deeply, releasing the breath all the way out to the end, and then whatever thoughts come up, interesting, uninteresting, whatever thoughts, memories, images come up, every out-breath, just release them gently but persistently. Just let them go, let them dissolve away. And so at the end of each exhalation, you're returning to silence, returning to silence. And this emphasis on relaxation, relaxation, relaxation. if you're really doing this as a method for getting a good night's sleep, and maybe weaning yourself off of Ambien, or there's another one, sleep medication, which was really not what the brain asked for. It's kind of invasive. And it can also poop out. I know somebody who was taking one of the two, and every single night, because he can never fall asleep without taking a drug. And eventually, then at one point, we're quite close, he phoned me, he was in a panic. I mean, really, he was having a panic attack. Because he said, I haven't slept for 3 nights now. My medication isn't working anymore. And he was crying, basically. I don't know what to do, because I can't sleep. He was really desperate. And so I zoomed off and joined him, and we took him, he was just panic-stricken. We took him to a hospital. And they checked him over. There was nothing wrong with him, except for he was extremely tired. And very kindly, I was very impressed by the doctor that looked him over and checked him out. And then she prescribed another drug for him. So now has another drug. He'll be taking that every night, I'm sure. I think she was giving them the very best. I have no criticism here. But those drugs do not heal insomnia. They suppress the symptoms. The underlying causes, you're not even touching them, right? This practice doesn't suppress any symptoms at all. It's going right down to, why is the mind so turbulent? Maybe why is the whole energetic system so turbulent? Why can't you get a good night's sleep when you're sleepy? So this has no side effects. It can be habit forming to relax, but just focus on the relaxation every out-breath. Practicing shamatha, and then if your mind is like mine, sooner or later, it could be 5 minutes, it could be half an hour, but you're meditating, so why not? Last thing to do, meditate, good. But sooner or later, you're bound to feel you'll know exactly what I'm referring to, because you have to have experienced it, waves of drowsiness. Waves of drowsiness. That he's kind of like, this whole system needs a good night's sleep now, and the drowsiness is coming in, and that's a good thing. So when you see the waves of drowsiness coming in, and it's hard to maintain clarity, because you're kind of you're really feeling sleepy, or I like this word, you are feeling woozy. I like that word, onomatopoeic word. When you feel kind of drowsy, then you say, okay, the whole system's ready to shut down and get a good night's sleep, and then come out of the shavasana. Don't stay there. I said I would really encourage you to use it only for yoga and meditation. Just shift your posture, but not that. Even if it's symbolic, but shift it. And then stop practicing shamatha. But then as you're reading and falling asleep, then continue releasing until you simply fall asleep. And a point that's very helpful is when we're in the waking state, here's a little bit of Vajrayana physiology. In the waking state, like right now, the prana, the vital energies within the body that are so closely associated with the mind, they gather in the head, up here right at this level, frontal cortex. And so no wonder we have a sense of being up in the head. That's where the energies are. And of course, our senses here, eyes, smell, taste, touch, hearing, they're all up in the head. So when I look at you, when I look at your head, you think I'm looking at you. If I look down at your kneecap, you might wonder, what are you looking there for? But if I look at your face, then I'm looking at you, right? And so we do generally feel we're up here. And we often say, oh, I had so many thoughts in my head, or I knew a thought, some in my head. It's not literally true, but it certainly feels like it. And if you'd like to fall asleep, I'll say this, the little pith instructions from Vajrayana teachings on dream yoga, that when you go into the dream state, when you're dreaming, those same energies that are up here in the head in the waking state, they come and they gather at the throat chakra. And then when you go into deep dreamless sleep, they descend to the heart chakra, right? So if you'd like to fall asleep, bring your attention, bring your awareness down below, out of the head, down into the torso. Or if you'd like to, and I've done this on a number of occasions, bring your awareness all the way down to the soles of your feet. Bring it all the way down to the other end. The soles of the feet, have you noticed, they're really uninteresting? The tactile sensations like that, it's just no plot. There's nothing there at all to arouse you that's interesting. So bring it down there, and then just feel the body breathing and relax. And I almost never suffer from insomnia. And only on very long flights will I take one tab when I really need to sleep on the flight, an Ambien. But so there it is. That can be very useful for getting a good night's sleep and making that a habit, because it's very important. If you'd like to have a sustainable practice of dream yoga, then on a regular basis you need to be getting enough sleep. So there we are. So now for the, again, within this discipline of lucid dreaming, what do you do when you get into bed and you're ready to, prime yourself to have a lucid dream? Well, first of all, this prospective memory. Fall asleep with a strong resolve to perform a state check, look for dream signs, and recognize your dream the next time you dream. So when you're in bed and within 90 minutes or so, you're most likely going to enter your first dream cycle. Know that in a relatively short time, you're probably going to be someplace else. You'll probably not dream of lying on your bed. You'll be someplace else. So be anticipating, very soon I'm going to be someplace else, I'm going to be dreaming. And then remember what to do. Look for anomalies, look for dream signs. Remember to do state checks. And do so with a strong anticipation, resolve, desire, aspiration. Tonight I'm really going to do my best to recognize the dream as a dream, and then fall asleep with that aspiration, that prospective memory. And then there are different types of dreams. I'll run through this quickly. There are dream-induced. For many people, the first lucid dream they have is by seeing something really weird in a dream. I know that was true for me. You're seeing something so weird in a dream that you think, I must be dreaming, and actually then you recognize you are dreaming. Tsongkhapa, again, allude back to him. He said the very easiest way to have a lucid dream is to have a nightmare, a really unpleasant, terrifying dream, and you recognize, okay, it's Godzilla or something else terrifying, and there's something in you, I don't want to be here, this has to be a dream, and you recognize it's a dream. But usually when it's something really terrifying like that, the reason you want to become lucid is so if you can hit the ejector button and pop yourself out of the dream and wake up. And then you have a very short lucid dream. But it is one of the easiest ways. So seeing anomalies, whether they're horrifying or whether they're just weird, that's one of the easiest ways. Because within the dream you say, wow, this must be a dream, it's just so weird. And then you recognize, in fact, you are dreaming. So that's dream-induced. Very common. Waking-induced. Waking-induced, this is most easily done. I'll give you some of the mengak, the pith instruction from Stephen LaBerge, because he's simply the one I know best. But if you really become quite serious, quite committed to developing the ability, the recurrent ability to dream lucidly, then especially on a weekend, like a Saturday or Sunday, when you can sleep in, and if you sleep in a lot, it won't be a problem, you will not miss work or miss school and so forth, then recognize when you normally wake up. Maybe it's, let's say 6. Let's say it's 6 o'clock. If you normally wake up at 6 o'clock, and you know that the rest of the day is wide open, so if you sleep in, it's not going to be a problem, then set your alarm for maybe 3:30. And then wake up, and then the instructions are wake up, and then for maybe just 15-20 minutes, direct your attention to something related to dreams. Listen to an audio tape about lucid dreaming, or read a book on lucid dreaming, or dream yoga, or read about people who are very exceptional. Just attend to dreams, and then after doing that for just 20 minutes or so, you should still be sleepy, you still need 2 more hours of sleep. Then turn off the light, and then go back to sleep with a strong anticipation, very soon I'm going to be dreaming, and when I'm dreaming I'll recognize it. And if you do so, what did he say? 2,000%. Yeah, 20 times greater chance, 2,000%, 20 times greater chance of having a lucid dream if you do that. Of course, you're breaking up your sleep, so you don't really want to do that, but if you do that, this last 2 hours of sleep is really prime time for dreaming. You tend to have the longest dreams, and they have often the most interesting dreams. The first dream cycle is probably going to be fairly short, and frequently it's related to the events of the preceding day. So probably not that interesting. But as you go from basically these little reincarnations, you're born into a dream, it lasts for 5 minutes, you die from that dream, go back into the substrate, then you have your second incarnation, and then you're somebody else maybe, or in a different place, different activities, and then you die from that third, fourth. By the time you get to the 5th, 6th, 7th cycle, then you're quite far removed. You've had several incarnations during that, little mini incarnations. So by the time you come to the last 2 hours, it's a lot of time since the memories of the preceding day. So these are the times when you may have the deepest dreams, tapping into very deep impulses, old memories, maybe wisdom. And so the last 2 hours is really optimal time, and if you can be lucid, then you might have a dream that lasts as long as 90 minutes. And if you can enter into it lucidly or recognize it very quickly, then that's a lot of lab time. So very, very useful. So there are waking-induced. Waking-induced is, in fact, waking-induced. That would be waking-induced, but another way, and again, it's not easy, but why should it be easy? We'll be engaging during the mid part of this retreat in this practice of observing the mind. It's called by different names, settling the mind, its natural state, and so forth. But quintessentially, what it entails is rest in the simplicity of awareness and be aware of the activities, the movements of the mind, but relax more and more deeply. Let your whole rhythm of respiration settle and settle and settle. So you remain in this little room of awareness, unelaborated, unadorned, and you really allow your body to fall asleep. And your breathing cycle will slip into the breathing cycle of people who are deep asleep. And I've done a bit of research. I'd be interested, Charlie, maybe you can correct me because I really don't want to make mistakes here, but I did a bit of research and I have my own experience. By now, kind of a fair amount of it. But I found when I go deeper and deeper into shamatha, and it's really as if the body is falling asleep, I found repeatedly that when I just kind of go into a steady flow, it's 15 cycles per minute. That's what I found again and again. It's short breathing. It's not agitating. It's just short. It's shallow. And then I've logged it. It's 14, 15, 16 cycles per minute again and again and again. And that's my experience. And it just happens so many times that I recognize it quickly. Oh yeah, there's the 15 cycles. Because that's 4 seconds for a whole cycle. So short, but again, nothing exciting about it or agitating about it. And then we go to Vajrayana, and it turns out that it's everywhere in Vajrayana, and not only Buddhism. I've just recently learned it comes up in another tradition as well. The number of 21,600 respirations per 24-hour period. 21,600. That's the number that comes up repeatedly in Vajrayana. And lo and behold, 15 cycles per minute. If you do that for 24 hours, it's 21,600. I thought that was curious. I didn't see that coming. And then I did really superficial research, namely Google, to ask a simple question. I mean, there's so much research on sleep, lots of it. What's easier to check than when you have 100 subjects and you just measure the respiration when they're in deep dreamless sleep? And you can know that. They're very clear physiological signs. Is it standard? Is it different? And what I came up with is, what I read is 15 cycles per minute. Do you know whether that's true? Did you see anything contrary? That's what I found. So, say again? I'd go with that. Okay. If anybody knows better than I'm not an expert, but I have my experience of Vajrayana, and then I check this out. But if this is true, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? 15 cycles per minute is what your body sleeps into when you're not bugging it. Not when you're dreaming, because that can have a lot of emotions, that can really stir things up. But in deep dreamless sleep, and then when you go into shamatha, what does happen, I'll say with some confidence, just practicing shamatha, not making any claims about high realization, but your breathing goes into that flow of 15 cycles per minute, and then as you go deeper into samadhi, it doesn't get shorter. It doesn't get longer, it just stays there. So the frequency is the same, 15 cycles per minute. But what does shift is the amplitude, the volume of air you're taking in. It becomes shallower and shallower and shallower. So amplitude decreases, frequency stays constant, and your body's falling asleep. And then beyond sleep, you're going into samadhi. If we look ahead into really, really deep samadhi, into the fourth jhana, that's way beyond shamatha. The fourth jhana, which there's a lot of literature on it, been achieved by Hindus, by Buddhists, and who knows other people. But it's very well explored deep samadhi territory. Not by us in the West. We're primitive in this regard. But India, Tibet, Mongolia, Bhutan, they really know this stuff. China, deep. People achieve the fourth jhana, the breathing stops altogether. I'm not asking anybody to believe this, but there's an enormous amount of experience behind that statement. The breathing actually goes flat for hours and hours, even days, and no brain damage. So it's really unexplored territory for science. How is that possible? But for the contemplatives, well, what do you think is possible or not? Your brain isn't damaged, and you can remain in samadhi for even days at a time. in October I'm going to meet one yogi. I've heard about him. And he spent 17 years in retreat, Bhutanese, 17 years in retreat. During that time he decided, I think well into, is my speculation, is well into his retreat, he decided he just needed to nail down shamatha, accomplish it for heaven's sakes. And he spent 5 years at it. 5 years. Big deal. That's about the time it takes to get an undergraduate education. So not such a big deal. But 5 years practicing shamatha. He achieved it. Whether he achieved something beyond shamatha, I can't say, but he definitely achieved shamatha. And when he came out of his 17-year retreat, just to demonstrate to his Sangha brothers and sisters how his practice had gone, he went into samadhi, sat in samadhi, came out 9 days later. You can't fake that. You can't fake that. Some of you may know Kandola. Kandola? Yeah. I just recently learned. Kandola. She sat in meditation with a yogi that I met. He was known Gen Tutupla. Again, you know of him anyway. Or Yeshe Topte. Gen Tutupla. I met him years ago, 1992. He'd been up in retreat for about 30 years. He was the senior most yogi. He was marvelous, incredible. So Kandola met him. This is back in the 90s, I think. They met him and she said, would you like to meditate together? And he said, sure. So he went in, came out 4 hours later. She went in, came out 9 hours later. And she chuckled. She said, you don't know how to meditate very well, do you? If you know her, you know, she's just saying that in an incredibly sweet and charming way. Joking. But she's one of those people called a self-emergent yogini. She did not spend years and years in retreat achieving that. Some people are just gifted. What can you do? That's what I do. She's one of my lamas, revered lamas. So in any case, if you achieve shamatha, you're still breathing, but it's going to be very, very shallow. Amplitude is going to be very small. Achieve the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana. I haven't achieved those, but I would strongly suspect my working hypothesis would be the frequency stays the same. But amplitude just goes down, and it's flat. Your body is in such a fine state of equilibrium, it just doesn't need any air. And there are yogis who go into such fine samadhi, their bodies don't need any food either. It does happen. We don't have to believe that, but it's still true. It doesn't matter what we believe. So there's waking induced. So waking induced would be going, I like this, I hold up my one finger like an unflickering candle flame. It's my little symbol. You keep that flame of your awareness, your simple, unadorned awareness, you keep that lucidity as you let your body fall asleep. And you watch your mind fall asleep. Your little dress rehearsal for dying. You watch your mind fall asleep. You watch your senses implode. You watch your memory and emotions and thoughts and so forth all going down to zero. And your mind has gone to sleep. So your body's gone to sleep, your mind's gone to sleep. The only thing that hasn't gone to sleep is awareness. And you go directly from waking state to lucid dreamless sleep. That's possible. Take some work. That's possible. And then there's mnemonic-induced lucid dreams, and these are the ones that I've talked about before. Recognize your dream signs, remember this, remember to look for anomalies, remember to do a state check, and so forth, and these are very skillful techniques. So those are 3 types that have been very well researched. The next point in the notes I've already mentioned. Recall your dream signs. So I've mentioned that as well. When you're writing your dream journal, recall the dream signs. Look for strong and weak. Strong are very, very frequent. Repeated dreams are just occasional. Oh yeah, this is an interesting point. Movement shatters attentional stability, undermining dream recall, just as movement while meditation disturbs attentional stability. So just overall, when you're developing your shamatha, your attention skills, it's very helpful to keep the body very still. Moving is going to disturb it. If you are maintaining lucidity but the dream fades, this is clear pith instruction as well, totally experiential. So I'm just referring to the first generation of a whole generation of dream researchers, who I think they've offered a great service here. But you can be in the midst of a lucid dream, and then for whatever reason, the dream just starts to evaporate. You're still lucid, but hey, you're losing the dream. And so if you'd like to restore the dream, you've got the lucidity. If you want to restore the dream, Then the fifth instruction states, rub your body. Give yourself a lot of sensory input from the dream. Rub your body. Just rub it down, rub it. Really engage with your body, and that'll reform your body. Your body can evaporate into nothing. The appearance of your body will just dissolve into the substrate. But if you rub it, then it becomes real for you, and you restore your body. And then if you want to make sure the environment, spin, keep your eyes open and spin, and get a lot of input from your environment. And the environment will come back in again. Some of you have known me for years. You remember one of my favorite quotes from William James, "For the moment what we attend to is reality." It's a psychological truth. And so if your dreaming is fading out, just pay close attention to it, and it will come back in again. Right? And then if you just stop paying attention to it, you close your eyes to give it no attention at all, it will dissolve. And if you maintain your lucidity, you'll go directly, as I said before, from a lucid dream to a lucid dreamless state. Now, just to clarify one point, if that's how you access the substrate consciousness, then you're bringing to the substrate consciousness just the ordinary sense of clarity you had in your dream, which probably corresponds more or less to the ordinary clarity you have right now, right? So you're getting into the same room, you're experiencing the substrate consciousness. Whereas in contrast, if you spend weeks or months, or if necessary years, in full-time professional practice, seeking to follow the whole 9 stages of achieving shamatha fully, by the time you come to the end of that path, the clarity, the luminosity, the brightness, acuity of your attention is just off the charts. It's amazing. And so you've really unveiled the natural luminosity of awareness like never before. This takes a lot of training, a lot of fine-tuning. That's what the whole discipline of shamatha is really about. And so that if you have completely unveiled the natural luminosity of your awareness, and from that lengthy training, or very effective training, you access the substrate consciousness that way, then I would say the two, accessing it just simply by going from lucid dream to lucid dreamless sleep, just that, as opposed to accessing the substrate consciousness by achieving shamatha, is like going into the same room. The room is your substrate, illuminated by your substrate consciousness, with a 10-watt bulb and a 1,000-watt bulb. So that's the difference. It's not the same, but you're in the same place. So, and then my favorite one. And then we'll move to theory. And there's a lot more, so I'll say a little bit more. But one of about the easiest paranormal feat, the easiest siddhi that you can accomplish in a lucid dream is flying. I mean, it's really, really easy. Pretty much just think you can, and then you can. At least hover. And then you start thinking, oh, I can move, and then there you go, Superman. So that's pretty easy to do, and it's fun. But then when Stephen's been offering this kind of training for maybe 30 years by now, then he'll give people a bit more challenging when they become a little bit adept at lucid dreaming. And he'll ask them, well, in your next lucid dream, see a wall like that one right there. That looks like it's made of brick to me. It looks pretty solid. In your dream, come right next to a brick wall, and then bring your full awareness to it. There's no brick there. This is a dream. That's an appearance of a wall. There's no wall there. So there's nothing there that should prevent you from walking right through it. So walk through it. And see if you can. If you're very lucid, I know some people, I got a report just recently. A person, because I get a lot of reports, a person had, I think, one of her first lucid dreams, and maybe the very first one, she saw a wall and said, let's try it. She walked right through it. Easy peasy. So some people can, there's no wall there, walk right through it. And others come up to the wall and they kind of tap it. And it feels pretty hard and cold to me. Okay, I'll try. And they try to go through it like Harry Potter with this little, and it gets stuck. Happens repeatedly. People get halfway through the wall. And the mind seizes up. They get halfway through the wall and think, oh, but it's solid. And then, I've lost so many students, they're still there in their dream. I have to say that, it's one of my... No, they eventually it wears off and they manage to survive. But then people get tricky. People get tricky. If they keep on getting stuck, either they bounce off of it, because it's a hard wall after all, or they get halfway through and they get stuck, which is really annoying. And your head's on one side and your body's on the other. It's awkward. Then people get sneaky. And so they run towards the wall and close the eyes at the last instant. They get right through. They walk through the wall backwards. Because if you're walking through a wall backwards and you don't have eyes in the back of your head, you don't know when it's supposed to be hard. And there's nothing hard there, out of sight, out of mind, out of existence. So you're just backing up into nothing, so why shouldn't you get on the other side of the wall? So there are tricky ways. But you really, as you're becoming more lucid, bear in mind it's a gradient. It's not are you not. It's not that simple. But as you become more and more lucid, that is more and more thoroughly comprehend the nature of what is dream reality, then you will see for yourself that there is nothing objectively or subjectively in the dream that is inherently resistant to your imagination. Now your imagination is limited. Again, if you don't speak Russian, you can't have Russian cropping up. But pretty much anything you can imagine, you can make that happen. So a lot of people in the secular world, I've read about this, who they just find out, whoa, if you're a man, you find in the dream state, women are just very, very willing to look like whatever you want them to look like and do whatever you like to do with them. So some people kind of get bogged down in that. Stephen Lampeter said he did, actually. But I'll tell you one story. It's just a charming story. He has some really good stories, but one of them, it was quite pivotal for him. It was a very, very seminal, transformative dream. He'd had dream sex quite a few times. It's fun, you know. And if it can be Marilyn Monroe, not 80-year-old dead Marilyn Monroe, but, in her prime. Anybody you like, really, because it's a figment of your imagination, but the sex certainly seems real. So he tried that a lot. And, it's fun. And then one day he was out driving in a convertible out in the countryside. And he saw on the side of the road these, what do they call it? What's the lingerie? Victoria's Secret. He saw these Victoria's Secret models on the side of the road, and they're going. And he sees them and he knows, are they going to say yes? Yep, they're going to say yes. But he's done it so many times already. So he thought, why don't I just pass them by this time? I mean, I got another dream coming, There's plenty more there's plenty more where they came from. It's your imagination, after all. And so then he said, well, why don't I try to do something more meaningful? And as I recall, he told me this story years ago. He said, what is the highest meaning? What is the highest meaning? That was his question. And he asked that question, I think it was a Cadillac convertible. And he posed that question, and then the Cadillac started to levitate, to go up into the sky. And it went further and further, and it went into deep space. And into deep space, vast open space. And he saw love. Not sex, love. And he found that very, very transformative. So I'll tell you one more story from Stephen Lampeter. But this is replicated many, many times. It's not anomalous, it's not unusual to him. But what is very well known by people who really start having a lot of lucid dreams, and the parallel is very strong. Oh, we've gone on. Cracky. It's a really cool story. And I'm not going to tell it now. Or because we don't want to be impolite, and I'm just off because I regularly go 9 to 12, 9 to 12, and I have to shift over. So there it is. It's already 12:45. So I've been impolite to the cooks, and I don't like to do that. I'll do my best not to. Prospective memory. And Elizabeth, you can come at 12:30 if I do this again. Bop me at 12:30, please. I request. But we really want to be. They're so gracious here, very helpful. So we want to show our respect and courtesy. So, but we're leaving at 15 minutes late. And I'll tell you the story later. It's quite cool, and it's significant. It's not just story time. So we're leaving at 12:45. We would come back at 2 o'clock, 2:30. Let's come back at 2:45. Because the breaks are a time when you can just practice all the way through. And that's what I'm going to do. When I'm leading retreats, I do whatever email I have to, I meditate, I teach. That's pretty much it. So I would encourage you to maintain the continuity. And I'll see you at 2:45. I'll tell you the story, and we'll go right back to the next meditation.